welcome guys. I just wanted to do a video on the cost of ships. So with the changes that have just been made to the campaign, the maintenance costs has been increased. So basically what it is the maintenance is 5.5% of what your total cost is. So if you want to reduce your maintenance, you just reduce your total cost. So building cheap ships, as long as they're effective, can be the best strategy, especially at the start of the game until you've got your economy going. So I just wanted to go through how I penny pinch basically. So I've built out a ship. It's the first time I've actually built this hull, but which is why it looks a mess. But I've built out the ship, and I've put all the best stuff on it. I've maxed the displacement out. I've made it awesome basically. But it's 63 million. So it's 3.5 million maintenance, which is obviously very expensive. So one of the first things to save money on is the beam and draft. Now, yeah, the beam and draft can increase your resistance, which makes you more durable to penetrating hits and torpedoes. And the beam will increase your accuracy on your gun. But if you have a look at the cost, 63 million, 63.6. We've just saved 8.6, and then reduce the beam. So from 63.6, we've just saved 17.3 million by setting them at minimum instead of maximum. Obviously, if you just play in the middle, then you're at 53.8. So if you reduce them down to the minimum, then you've just saved 7.5 million, which is significant, obviously. So that's the first way to penny pinch. Now the other way is with your speed. Now this increases exponentially. The more you go up, the more it increases. So you'll notice if it's at the bottom, as you raise up, it doesn't go up much at all. So I've just put 5 knots on, and it only increased by 800k. But then as you start going up, you'll notice it starts rising a lot quicker the more you go up. So try and find out the area where it starts to rise quickly. And there will also be areas where it jumps up. So never go over a jump unless you really have to. And when it starts to rise really fast, so there's a jump there and then it rises really fast afterwards. So always try and keep below that amount, which for this hull is about 24 knots. So that's the second way that you save money, is keeping your speed as low as possible. Now you'll obviously want some fast ships to chase down the enemy, but big ships don't need to be fast. Big ships are designed for when the enemy's coming at you and you're having a pitched battle. You don't chase ships down with battleships and battle cruisers and armoured cruisers. So just keep them at a reasonable speed. Depending on what the era is, obviously it's going to be a different amount, but base it off the hull more than the era. As soon as the hull starts putting the price up quickly, then that's when you stay below that amount. You don't want to scrimp with armour, even though armour is really expensive. With big ships in particular, armour is really important, and especially if you're going minimum beam and minimum draft. you're going to want a lot of armour to protect you from penetrating shots. Another thing you can scrimp on is these components. If you're using a long range ship, one that you're not intending to get really close with, you don't need most of these components. Boilers are an exception. You're going to want the best boilers. But things like your engine as well, there's no point in taking things like diesel engines, gas turbines, turbo electric. They don't really provide any benefit, not for the cost anyway. So the most you can go up to is geared 2 in my opinion, but you might not even want to go that high if you don't need to. So yeah, we've just saved $20 million practically, just by making them few changes. Obviously, it does mean that you have got a little less space on your ship, so you've got 3% less. But if you reduce some of the unnecessary components, then you can quite easily reduce the weight. I wouldn't really reduce guns unless you had to. Guns and armour are the most important thing, and obviously things like rangefinders on gunships. So yeah, that's how I go about saving money on a battleship. And then on a destroyer or a torpedo boat, so a light cruiser or a destroyer, depending on what you're using as a torpedo boat. Same thing again with the speed. You're going to notice that there's an area where it starts going up exponentially. So just raise the see, like there, it jumped up 30% weight and doubled the cost. So you get to the point where there's a jump, and then that is the speed that you're going to stay at. Now, what you can do with things like torpedo boats, this might be what you want as a design. Loads of torpedoes, a couple of guns. So to save weight on something like this, the first thing you're going to want to do, reduce your ammo to reduced. You're only going to really get one shot off with a torpedo boat. So just do one shot and then escape. You're more likely to survive as well if you don't try and hang around for a second reload. But straight away I've just saved 9% by knocking it down from standard. So now with that 9%, same with the beam and draft with this as well. If we put that back on, so we're at 7.5 million. Now if we reduce the beam and draft, we've just saved 2 million just from reducing them to 7.5 to 5.5. Now if we reduce the torpedoes, we've just saved 900k, but we also saved all that weight, more importantly. So now that you've saved all of the weight, you can now reduce your displacement. You will have to compromise with losing a torpedo tube. So we've lost a torpedo tube. So there we go, we've lost 2 torpedo tubes. So instead of having 7, we've now got 5. But we've just saved, we've gone from 7.5 million to 3.5 million. And we've still got 5 torpedo tubes. So it's things like that that can drastically save you a load of money. And also as well, just because you've got weight left over, you don't have to spend it. If there's not a logical thing to spend it on, like with here I'm at minimum displacement, just don't spend it. Because like you might be tempted to put that 15%, now that you've spent all of your weight on all the things that you want, you might be tempted now to think, well, I'll spend that on speed. I can't actually quite get to the speed that I want, but let's say that we had 4 more percent, so say if we dropped the torpedo tube, that'll do. So that's 6.8 now, up from 3.6. So what is the point in doubling the cost just because you've got the weight available? There's just no point. So you may as well just stay within your speed limits, put the correct amount of torpedo tubes that you need on, and then if you've got weight left over, then, you know, tough shit. You can put it on things like barbettes if you want, but they're not really necessary with things like torpedo boats, because usually if you get hit, you're gonna die. So adding stuff on just because you've got weight, so like I don't think that the armour's important on a torpedo boat. If you're using it as a screening ship, where you're having a pitched battle with other screening ships, then you might want it. But putting armour on just to use the weight has just added another 400k. So, like 15%. What's the point in adding a 15% cost for something that isn't really going to be beneficial to you? So yeah, they're the ways that I reduce my costs on big ships and on small ships. So, hope this has been helpful. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.